I never imagined betrayal would come from the person who shared my childhood bedroom. My sister, Lily, and I were only 2 years apart. We grew up sharing clothes, secrets, and dreams. Or at least, that's what I believed. I was always the quieter one, the responsible daughter, the one who stayed invisible while Lily shined effortlessly. She was louder, prettier, more admired, and I learned early that loving her meant standing in her shadow. When I got engaged to Daniel, it felt like the first thing in my life that was truly mine. Daniel was kind, ambitious, and gentle in a way that made me feel safe. He listened when I spoke. He planned a future with me. For the first time, I allowed myself to believe I was chosen. Lily noticed immediately. At first, it was subtle, compliments that felt slightly off, long looks, jokes that crossed invisible lines. She laughed too loudly at his stories, touched his arm too often, lingered too close. When I mentioned it, she smiled sweetly and told me I was imagining things. "You've always been insecure," she said. "Relax." I wanted to believe her, until the night everything collapsed. Daniel didn't come home. His phone was off. I spent the entire night sitting on the edge of our bed, convincing myself something terrible had happened. An accident, a hospital, anything but the truth. In the morning, Lily walked into my apartment uninvited. She didn't cry. She didn't apologize. She just said it. "We're in love," she said calmly. "It just happened." Daniel didn't even have the courage to face me himself. The wedding was canceled. The invitations wasted. The life I had built in my head disappeared overnight. And the worst part wasn't losing him. It was realizing my sister watched me fall apart and felt nothing. Within weeks, they were together publicly. Within months, they were engaged. My family told me to be the bigger person, to forgive, to move on, to understand that love is complicated, but betrayal doesn't ask for understanding. It leaves you empty. I left the city shortly after, not because I was weak, but because I needed to survive. I didn't know then that this wasn't the end of my story. It was only the moment I stopped being visible to people who never truly saw me. I disappeared without an announcement. No dramatic goodbye. No final arguments. I packed 2 suitcases, left my keys on the kitchen table, and boarded a night train to a city where no one knew my name or my past. I told myself it was temporary, just long enough to breathe again. But breathing turned into healing, and healing slowly became rebuilding. At first, life was small. I rented a modest apartment above a bakery that smelled like fresh bread every morning. I worked long hours at a consulting firm, keeping my head down, proving myself through effort instead of charm. I spoke less, listened more, and learned how to be alone without feeling abandoned. There were nights I cried quietly into my pillow, replaying memories I couldn't erase. The engagement ring I never wore, the sister who never called, the family who chose silence over justice. But pain, when it's not numbed, changes shape. It sharpens you. 2 years passed. Without realizing it, I became someone else. My career took off unexpectedly. A project I almost declined turned into a breakthrough. Then another. Then another. I was promoted, then recruited, then invited into rooms I never imagined stepping into. I learned how to negotiate, how to lead, how to walk into a space and command it without raising my voice. That's when I met him. Ethan wasn't loud. He didn't try to impress. He watched people the way architects study foundations, quietly, carefully. We met during a board meeting where he challenged my proposal with brutal honesty and then stayed behind to ask me how I built it. Our conversation started professionally, then slowly blurred into something deeper. We talked about failures, about walking away, about what it means to lose people you thought were permanent. He never asked about my past until I was ready. When I finally told him everything, my sister, my ex-fiancé, the humiliation, he didn't interrupt. He didn't judge. He just said, "They didn't break you, they revealed you." I didn't know then that Ethan was more than a successful investor. I didn't know his name carried weight in rooms I'd never entered. And I certainly didn't know that one day my old life would collide with my new one, in a way none of them could have prepared for. Because while I was rebuilding myself quietly, they were about to see who I had become. The invitation arrived without warning. A black and gold envelope. A charity gala hosted by one of the largest private foundations in the city. The kind of event where deals were whispered between crystal glasses and reputations were measured by who stood beside you. Ethan didn't hesitate. "You should come with me," he said casually, as if inviting me for coffee. "I want the world to see you the way I do." I almost declined. Something inside me resisted the idea of stepping into a room full of polished smiles and hidden histories. But another part of me, stronger now, knew this wasn't fear. It was closure waiting to happen. The night of the gala, the ballroom glowed with warm lights and quiet luxury. I wore a black dress, simple but unmistakable. Nothing flashy, nothing forced. Confidence didn't need decoration anymore. When we entered, conversations softened. Heads turned. Not because of me, not at first, but because of Ethan. I felt it before I saw them. That sudden shift in the air. The silence that doesn't belong. Across the room, near the champagne table, my sister stood frozen mid-laugh. Her hand was still wrapped around my ex-fiancé's arm. The same arm that once promised me forever. Their eyes met mine. At first, confusion. Then recognition. Then disbelief. My sister's smile collapsed slowly, like glass under pressure. My ex-fiancé's face drained of color. His mouth opened slightly, as if he wanted to speak, or apologize, or deny reality altogether. But no words came. Ethan leaned closer to me. "Do you know them?" he asked softly. I didn't look away. "I used to." That's when it happened. Someone approached Ethan, a board member maybe, and greeted him loudly. "Ethan, incredible turnout tonight. Your foundation outdid itself." Foundation, owner, billionaire. The word didn't need to be spoken out loud. I felt my sister's grip tighten on her glass. I saw my ex-fiancé swallow hard, his eyes flicking between my face and Ethan's, suddenly calculating, suddenly aware. This wasn't the woman they abandoned. This wasn't the sister they underestimated. This was someone else entirely. Later that evening, my sister approached me, her voice shaking beneath forced composure. I didn't know," she said. "About you, about him." I met her gaze calmly. "You didn't want to know." My ex-fiancé tried next. "I made a mistake," he said quietly. "I was confused back then." I smiled. Not cruelly, not kindly. "Confusion doesn't excuse betrayal," I replied. "And some doors don't reopen. They disappear." Ethan took my hand, firm and certain. And in that moment, I realized something powerful. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need explanations. Their shock was enough, because they finally saw me and understood that losing me had cost them far more than they ever imagined. After that night, nothing dramatic happened. No public confrontations, no screaming apologies, no desperate messages flooding my phone. And that was the most telling part of all. Because when people truly realize what they've lost, they don't know how to fight anymore. They don't know which version of you to speak to, the old one they controlled, or the new one they don't recognize. I thought about my sister often after that evening, about how easily she stepped into my place, how naturally she accepted a love that wasn't meant for her, how she never once asked herself why it felt wrong to win something that was never offered freely. I realized that betrayal isn't always driven by hatred. Sometimes it's driven by emptiness, by the need to prove worth at any cost. And my ex-fiancé, he didn't lose me the night he chose her. He lost me long before that. The moment he decided my silence meant weakness, my loyalty meant permanence, and my love meant convenience. What neither of them understood was this: I didn't rebuild my life to be seen again. I rebuilt it so I would never disappear again. Ethan never asked me to explain my past. He listened when I chose to share, and stayed silent when I didn't. With him, love wasn't loud or performative. It didn't demand proof or sacrifice. It simply existed, steady, grounded, respectful. And for the first time, I understood what safety actually felt like. Not excitement fueled by insecurity, not passion born from uncertainty, but peace. Months later, I heard through distant relatives that my sister's relationship had begun to crack under the weight of unspoken comparisons and resentment. That my ex-fiancé struggled with the quiet knowledge that he had traded depth for convenience, loyalty for ego, substance for illusion. I didn't feel satisfaction when I learned this. Only clarity, because the greatest revenge isn't watching someone suffer. It's watching them realize, too late, that they destroyed something irreplaceable. I no longer define myself by what was taken from me. I define myself by what I chose to become when I was left with nothing but myself. And if there's one truth I want you to carry with you after hearing my story, it's this: being underestimated is painful, but it's also a gift. It gives you space to grow without interference. It gives you silence to become dangerous in the best possible way. It gives you time to rebuild into someone they can no longer touch. I didn't win because I married well. I won because I learned my worth when no one else defended it. And when they froze that night, staring at a life they never thought I'd have, it wasn't because of wealth or status or appearances. It was because they finally understood. Walking away from me was the most expensive mistake they ever made. Thank you so much for watching and supporting Her Hidden Heart.